They called her the monster in Cell 4B. Technically, her designation was Subject Vraka, a bioengineered siegebreaker for the Krell Dominion, but the guards preferred monster. She sat in the corner of the containment unit, 7 feet of chitinous plating and coiled muscle, watching the human in the cell across the hall. Jax was disappointing. Vraka had studied humans in the databanks. They were classified as Grade C endurance predators. Soft skin, no natural armor, blunt teeth. Yet this Jax, was currently sitting on the floor of his cell, humming a vibration that rattled slightly in Vraka's auditory canals. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't weeping. He was weaving a small braid out of a torn strip of his orange jumpsuit. "You are leaking," Vraka grumbled, her voice sounding like boulders grinding together. Jax looked up. He blinked, completely unfazed by the fact that a creature designed to eat tanks was speaking to him. "I'm what?" "Your ocular cavities. There is saline discharge." Jax wiped his eye with the back of a dirty hand. "Oh, yeah, just dust. The ventilation in here is terrible. You'd think for a maximum security void transport, they'd spring for better filters." He went back to braiding. It was infuriating. Vraka shifted, her dorsal spines clicking against the wall. The guards were terrified of her. The other prisoners, hardened mercenaries and pirates, avoided looking at her cell, but Jax treated her like a roommate who breathed too loud. It was a severe culture shock. "What is your crime, human?" she demanded. "You do not look like a killer." "I'm a medic," Jax said, not looking up. "I patched up a Krell soldier during the skirmish on Theta 9. Command didn't like that. Said I was aiding the enemy." "You healed a Krell?" Vraka paused, her thermal pits flaring with confusion. "Why?" Jax shrugged. One shoulder went up, then down. A uniquely human gesture of dismissal. He was bleeding. "I had gauze. It's just human instinct, I guess. When you see something broken, you try to fix it." Vraka stared at him. The concept of Terran empathy was illogical. To heal an enemy was to prolong the conflict. It was inefficient. It was dangerous. It was fascinating. Then the lights died. The hum of the gravity drive cut out, replaced by the shrieking alarm of a total system failure. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with the scent of ozone and sudden opportunity. Then came the sound Vraka had been waiting for, the collective click-hiss of 300 containment collars deactivating at once. The magnetic locks on the cell doors disengaged. Freedom. Vraka surged to her feet, her blood boiling with the anticipation of violence. She prepared to tear through the bulkhead, to reclaim her dignity and blood. But as she took a step, her collar didn't fall off. It screamed. A malfunction in the dampener circuit sent a jolt of high-voltage electricity straight into her neural column. Vraka crumbled, her massive legs giving out. She hit the deck hard, her vision swimming in static. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. She could only convulse on the cold metal floor as the sounds of chaos erupted around her. The riot had begun. Mercy in a slaughterhouse was a myth. The other prisoners were already pouring into the corridor, eager to kill the guards and each other. Through the haze of pain, Vraka saw a figure standing over her. It was the human, Jax. He was free. His collar lay on the floor of his empty cell. The corridor to the escape pods was open. Any logical creature would be running. Instead, Jax was kneeling beside her. "Don't bite me," he muttered, his voice shaking just a little. "Seriously, Vraka, please don't bite me." "Why?" Vraka rasped, her voice distorted by the spasms wrecking her body. "Run. Little meat." "I'm busy," Jax said. He reached out. His hands, soft and painfully unarmored, touched the burning metal of her collar. To Vraka, whose species only touched to kill or to dominate, the contact was electric. Not like the shock, but deeper. A strange, muddy biological confusion rippled through her scales, turning them a confused, flushed shade of amber. "Look at me," Jax commanded. He wasn't looking at the monster in cell 4B. He was looking at the wound. He was looking at the patient. To him, a riot is just a patient surge. His fingers worked frantically at the manual override mechanism on her throat. He was so close. One snap of her jaws could take his head off. He had to know that. He was terrified. She could smell the sour spike of fear hormones pouring off him, but his hands didn't stop. This is the subversion, she thought dizzily. He is afraid, yet he stays. Hold on, Jax grunted, jamming a piece of metal he'd scavenged from his cell into the collar's circuit. I'm going to have to short it. This is going to hurt. It already hurts. I know, I'm sorry. He looked her in the eye. For a second, the chaos of the screaming prisoners and dying guards faded. There was just the human, sweating and terrified, and the bioweapon he refused to leave behind. He was saving the nightmare not because she deserved it, but because he couldn't help himself. 1, 2, 3. He twisted the metal. A spark showered over his hands, burning his skin, but the collar snapped open with a dead clunk. Vraa gasped, air flooding her lungs. The pain vanished, leaving only the ghost of his touch on her scales. She lay there for a moment, stunned, looking up at the small, fragile creature who was blowing on his burned fingers. You, she whispered, you are defective. Jax laughed, a breathless, shaky sound. Yeah, tell me about it. Can you stand? Vraa stood. She towered over him, casting a shadow that swallowed him whole. The corridor behind them was filling with smoke and the sounds of approaching violence. She looked at the exit. Then she looked at the human who had just burned his hands to free a monster. We are leaving, Vraa stated. It wasn't a question. It was a tactical assessment. She reached down, grabbed Jax by the back of his jumpsuit, and hauled him to his feet like he weighed nothing more than a ration pack. The corridor ahead was a choke point of violence. Lasers scoring the walls, bodies piling up as the pirate factions fought for control of the armory. Stay behind the plating, she rumbled, tapping the thick chitin on her back. Do not die. It would be inconvenient. Jax didn't argue. He scrambled into her shadow. They moved as one strange, terrifying organism. This was symbiotic action in its purest form. Vraa was the hammer. She smashed through the barricades, her claws tearing through reinforced bulkhead doors and unfortunate rioters with equal ease. She was a whirlwind of kinetic energy, a biological tank designed for war. But a tank needs an operator. Left! Jax shouted, his voice cracking over the din. The coolant pipe is ruptured. Vraa didn't question him. She pivoted right, narrowly avoiding a jet of superheated steam that would have boiled her soft underbelly. Door is mag-locked, she roared, slamming her shoulder against the blast door leading to the bridge. It didn't budge. Jax ducked under her massive arm, ignoring the plasma fire singing the air above his head. He jammed a bypass unit into the panel. His hands were shaking, but his fingers knew the rhythm of the code. Cover me, he yelled. Vraa turned, armor expanding her plates to form a living wall between the human and the oncoming horde. She took a laser blast to the shoulder, grunting as the smell of scorched chitin filled the air. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She held the line because he was behind her. Got it! The door hissed open. Vraa grabbed Jax, threw him inside, and sealed the blast door behind them. The bridge was silent. The crew had fled in the escape pods long ago. It was just the two of them, the hum of the backup generators, and the endless starfield stretching out beyond the viewport. Vraa slumped against the captain's console, sliding down until she hit the floor. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind the dull throb of her burns and the exhaustion of the fight. She watched Jax. The human was pacing. He wasn't checking the navigation, and he wasn't trying to contact the authorities. He was rummaging through the emergency supply locker. This is the moment, Vraa thought. The freedom paradox. He has the bridge. He has the comms. He can bargain for his life. He can sell me out. She waited for the command. She waited for him to realize he held the leash. Jax turned around. He wasn't holding a weapon. He was holding a plastic pouch of water and a tube of Medigel. Sit up, he said, dropping to his knees beside her. That shoulder looks nasty. Vraa stared at the water pouch. Her 3 hearts beat in a slow, confused rhythm. You have the ship, she said slowly. You could course correct to a Union outpost. You could turn me in for a reduced sentence. Jax paused, unscrewing the cap of the gel. He looked at the navigation console, then back at her charred shoulder. Yeah, I could. Han, he said, applying the cool gel to her burns. But then who would watch my back? He handed her the water. Drink. You're dehydrated again. Vraka took the pouch. Her massive claws, capable of crushing steel, held the fragile plastic with extreme care. She looked at the human, this soft, squishy thing that had hacked a prison collar and walked through a war zone just to put ointment on a monster. She realized then that the cage hadn't been the cell. The cage had been the expectation that she was only a weapon. She took a drink. "Where are we going, medic?" she asked, her voice dropping to a low purr. Jack sat back, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Anywhere but here." He looked out at the stars, then gave her a tired, lopsided grin. "But first we nap. I'm exhausted." He leaned his head back against the console and closed his eyes, completely defenseless next to the deadliest warlord in the sector. Vraka watched him breathe for a moment. Then, shifting slightly, she moved her uninjured arm to block the draft from the vent, shielding him one last time. "Wake me if the sensors ping," she said. Jax didn't answer. He was already asleep. Vraka took another sip of water, the taste of survival sweet on her tongue. The monster was gone. There was only the crew.